$34 silver is just right around the corner yet again. Let's discuss silver's move to the upside and what's going on with the physical silver ETF known as PSLV and the silver shorts. We'll discuss it all in this video as we explore. A lot going on in the world, and likely we're going to see more volatility in the silver market. No question about it. However, I want to report to you that all the metals are up. It's green everywhere on the charts. In fact, silver is the top performer. It's up 2% right now. In fact, it was up more than that earlier in the day to almost $34 an ounce. It got as high as $33.86 earlier. It is now trading up 66 cents to $33.74. Gold is up marginally. It's up only $8.66 to $3 or $3,021.10. Platinum and palladium are both up about $5, and rhodium is up $75 a day. This has narrowed the gold to silver ratio to below 90 again. Still a very high ratio. I think it is still a little out of whack. But I've come to the realization that we have to settle for a higher gold to silver ratio than what we've been used to in the last decade. Nonetheless, silver is indeed shining bright today with climbing up so much. Now, before I go on, let me just describe to you, and with an understanding that when I say silver is surging, that is based off of a 24-hour period. And in fact, it did do that today. 2% increase or is certainly a surge. There's no question about that for a day's worth of trading. So that's how I define it. That's why I use that in the title, because people get on me about semantics, but there's no question that's a big move, and in the market for sure. Now, and silver jumping and gold rallying against a weaker U.S. dollar is more flip-flopping over President Trump's Liberation Day trade tariffs, as I've discussed in a video from this morning. Hope you will check that out. I'll link to it at the end screen of this video. And it saw the giant PSLV silver-backed ETF surge in size and coincided with the fresh evidence that U.S. consumer confidence is sinking now. With the U.S. importing over 30% more silver than its own mining industry produces each year, 3/4 of it from Trump's prime tariff targets of Mexico and Canada, stockpiles of the industrially useful precious metal in COMEX-approved warehouses have now leaped by nearly 1/2 since the Republicans' victory in November, surging past 2 years' worth of total U.S. silver demand. That's big news. That puts it into perspective, and we've been tracking the silver moving here on this channel. Now, he did promise some flexibility on trade tariffs and is now considering a two-step approach for his new tariff regime, according to the Financial Times, citing unnamed White House sources for a plan to impose emergency duties on April 2nd, while research and legal work on longer-term tariffs against specific trading partners are developed. And then really until those tariffs are put into place, and it's not going to all happen on April the 2nd, by the way, nation by nation will be reviewed. There's so many moving parts there that we're not going to know. I think some of the bigger players will know early on. And then once that gets settled in, I think we'll see a settling in of the price. And I think some folks may come to the grips and understanding that we may see lower silver prices. And of course, lower silver prices means a buying opportunity. Summit Metals is the channel sponsor. And so next time you're shopping around for precious metals, consider Summit Metals for your precious metal needs, summitmetals.com. Now, U.S. consumer expectations for the future have sunk to a 12-year low, according to the Conference Board think tank and business organization, echoing the collapse of U.S. consumer confidence reported last week by the University of Michigan's March survey. And so I think that's part of what is attributing to the lower dollar. And by the way, the dollar index is sitting right now at 104.21. So it's only down marginally, but silver's up a pretty good clip today. So that tells you something, that this dollar strength is still intact. Yea, though, gold and silver keep rising, and that's with no talk of a rate cut anytime in the near future anyway. And we'll see how that plays out. We're still a ways off. I think the next meeting for the Fed is in May. Silver's overnight rally took the price in Shanghai entry point into China, the metal's number one industrial consumer, within 1.6% of last week's 10-month high. And so that is pretty remarkable, and I think that is part of what else is playing. There's more uncertainty and going on in the world, and that is what is driving these numbers. With London quotes then rising to as high as $33.80 per troy ounce, New York's COMEX futures contract for May held 50 cents higher, while the April gold contract, similarly, the most active futures contract currently traded on the CME Derivatives Exchange, held around $6 per ounce above London's spot price of $3,022. We're just a couple bucks away from that right now for the actual spot price for gold. The New York-London spread for gold is markedly down from January's Trump tariff panic above $50, but higher than yesterday's low of just $2 per ounce. And gold is still too low to reflect the global growth risk, according to Max Layton. And more broadly, any markets where you can trade U.S. prices versus non-U.S. prices, all of them are underpricing the risk given this administration's been telling you over and over. And mining is also going to be opening up here in the United States too, and that could mean that we could actually mine some domestic silver and gold as well. Nevada is a great place for that. And so we're seeing this stuff happen, and again, the tariffs provide a lot of uncertainty and are moving the markets in such a way that people are kind of nervous as to what's going to happen. So I think once things settle down, we could see a pullback in both gold and silver prices. Be prepared for that possibility as a buying opportunity, and also as a time to hold your precious metals as well as buy. Now, let's talk a little bit about these ETFs. Giant Silver ETF Trust Fund, the iShares SLV, saw its number of shares in issue jump by 3.1%, requiring an extra 424 tons of bullion to back its value. That's huge. We know a lot of the metals moving from England here to the United States. Taking the SLV's total size up to the largest in 2 months at 14,148 tons. That inflow was the heaviest since the 22nd of July last year, and the 9th heaviest one-day inflow of this decade so far. That's according to Bullion Vault. Smaller competitor, the closest end PSLV from Canadian brokerage Sprott last week grew to fresh record size, needing 5,627 tons of bullion to back its shares in issue. Now remember, PSLV is supposed to be backed at a 1-to-1 ratio, and so that is their big bragging point for the Sprotts from that fund. Now, but there's been some talk that they are shorting. There's a lot of shorts being applied to the PSLV in particular. In fact, there's been some talk about it over on X platform with one person saying something and somebody that may be associated with Sprott, basically threatening a lawsuit for defamation or tell them to retract some statements or what have you about some of the stuff that's been happening there, some of the leverage trading and the like. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but nonetheless, I think that if you're going to get into an ETF, that might be the place to go because they're supposed to back at a 1-to-1. There are no derivatives associated with PSLV. And some people feel that if you're going to squeeze, that would be the place to do it. I don't know. And that that could crash the COMEX or whatever, whoever stores that. But investor demand for PSLV continues to leave its share price at a discount to the value of the metal needed to back it, with the trust now trading below its net asset value for almost 4 years without pause. So together, the SLV and PSLV now match a little over 77% of 1 year's total world silver mining output. That seems pretty big. The output set to lag global silver demand for the 5th consecutive year, according to analysis by specialist consultants, Metals Focus for the Mining Industry's Silver Institute. And this is a piece from Adrian Ash. So good reporting there, fascinating. But with these shorts happening there, I guess they're betting these short positions that the PSLV and silver's price is going to go down. So if people buy the PSLV and invest, somebody over at X has said that they're going to put 20 grand into it on March 31st. They're going to do that silver squeeze, but do it and very targeted in this case. And according to this posting here, so that'll be very interesting to see what happens here. Another person, Eric Young, says the Sprott Silver Trust can indirectly procure its physical silver from the COMEX through a bullion bank, though it does not directly participate in COMEX futures contracts or take delivery via that mechanism. So that means that people that put a lot of money into it, and invest into it, that could put them in some real trouble and could really, put the short positions in real trouble, which there's a lot of penalty if people do that. But, if somebody that takes a position, a pretty large position of trying to find the post here, yes, somebody's saying that they're going to be putting $20,000 in a PSLV on March 31st because he believes this is where the real opportunity for a squeeze is. And so that very well could be the case. And again, I don't really dabble in that area, but people have different ways of doing things. But nonetheless, I think even if we were to do that and others were to join him, it would only be temporarily. But nonetheless, I think it's good to procure silver for the long-term proposition of wealth preservation, because in the end, it will do just that. We should not expect anything more than that for our silver. Nonetheless, it's very interesting. We'll find out how this all plays out. But there's your report for today. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you have not subscribed, I hope we will consider doing so. And with that, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.